What's up, YouTubers? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with another testimony, so to speak, right? Y'all know what this channel is about. It's about helping people, being transparent, and if my tests and trials are to help others, then so be it. So I wanted to share a little bit with you guys about it. I'm not going to only declare this as a test and a trial, but I'm going to declare myself victorious as well, because even though I may still be going through it, I can tell you for sure that God has revealed some things to me, have shown me some things while going through it, has given me a peace beyond all understanding. So with that being said, if nothing else come from it, which other things have already came from it that's positive, but I'm victorious in this. Even when you're hurt by others, even when you feel like you're not seen or heard by others, it's still important to always walk in love. Throughout the years, several different times, it's been prophesied to me that it's time for God to use my mouth as his mouthpiece. I've been told that when I speak up, my voice is going to tear down strongholds and break through barriers. And for a while, I used to do certain things and participate in certain activities that made it easy for me to keep my mouth mute. Made me not really care about the things that I see or the experiences that I've been through or things that people do, where I'm able to just be like, yeah, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm going to be quiet. But God has really worked on me and helped me and delivered me through so many different things. I even have better ways now to cope with my emotions. And I want to remind you about CBT first. Remember, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, talks about how our thoughts influence our emotions and our emotions then influence our actions. So when you do things that kind of numb the emotion, it's easy to mute the mouth or to not react in a certain way. But when you are in a place to where you can experience those emotions and feel those emotions, every emotion is going to have a reaction of some kind, be it if it's a physiological reaction on how your body responds or a behavioral reaction on how you choose to respond. Now that I no longer participate in actions that kind of numb my emotions and mute my mouth, God has been able to really connect to me better, speak to me louder, if you will. And oftentimes, God speaks to me through my dreams. So a little backstory. Last week, I had a dream, and I want to share with you what that dream was, because at that time, I didn't understand it. But in my dream, me and my family of 5, my husband, myself, and my 3 kids, we went and we bought this blue horse from another family member. We brought this horse back home and we let it free in the backyard. And it was the most beautiful horse we have ever seen. Don't even know why the color of it was blue, but in my dream, it is what it is. That's what it was. And I mean, this horse was galloping, and I mean, just a beautiful horse, beautiful to watch and see and rub on. And then it came a certain time where we had to put the horse in a cage. I know you're probably like, it's a stable, not a cage. I'm just telling you what was in my dream. So in my dream, it was time to put this horse in its cage. Big cage, but still a cage nonetheless. And when it was time to put this horse in the cage, the horse started kind of bucking and not wanting to go into this cage and started huffing, to the point to where when we finally got it in front of the cage, my husband pushed the horse in the cage and closed the door. This horse became really upset. It kind of tilted its head. Again, you saw smoke kind of huffing through its nose. And then it just burst through the door of the cage with its head. And it went from galloping to kind of charging around the backyard. I mean, it was charging after neighbors. We have a dog, a fur baby. It was charging after my fur baby, to the point to where it finally went away. And I remember thinking in my dream, I'm glad that horse is gone, because it was once beautiful and something that I wanted, but now I don't want it no more. I'm kind of scared of it, actually. And I remember in my dream, I asked my husband, like, can we take the horse back? And my husband told me, well, we can take the horse back, but it's going to cost us $300 just to return the horse. I know this ain't making any sense, you guys. When y'all return things, y'all normally get something back. But in my dream, if I returned this horse, it was going to cost me more than what it originally cost me, right? So in my dream, I remember thinking, well, you know what? Maybe the horse won't be our problem no more. I mean, it's gone. We don't know where it's at. But maybe I can ignore it and just hope and wish and pray that the horse don't come back. Immediately after that, the next thing I know in my dream, the horse is back. It's back in the backyard. It's still huffing and it's still puffing and it's still charging, but you can see bruises on this horse. Like while it was gone, wherever it went, it got hurt in some type of way, because I literally remember walking up to it and touching it and seeing a bruise on it, an open sore even, if you will. Even though I noticed this horse was hurt, it wouldn't stay in my control long enough for me to guide it to this cage. So it'll still get away, it'll still charge around the backyard. And then, next thing I know in my dream, this horse is at my back patio door. The back patio door wasn't all the way closed, but it wasn't open enough for the horse to get through it. And I remember thinking in my dream, like, I don't want that horse in my house, because if that horse come into my house, it's gonna tear stuff up. So I remember myself, my husband, my 3 kids, we all ran towards the door to try to get the horse, or at least close the door. And as soon as we got there, the horse was able to move the door open with its head and go inside the house. And I kid you not, it was like in a funny movie where me and my family was all at the back door. And because the horse had went into the home, we all were like, oh my God, like this is gonna be a mess. And then I woke up. And when I woke up from this dream, my heart was beating so fast. Like that was my reality. But then I realized it was just a dream. And I don't know if any of you've ever had a dream that was so disturbing that you try to make yourself go back to sleep so you can finish the dream. Yeah, that's what I did. I tried to make myself go back to sleep and kind of narrate what the ending of the dream was going to be. But really, my dream ended with waking up with a palpitating heart. So with that being said, I had no idea what that dream meant. I just knew that I woke up with anxiety and distress, but was able to regulate myself. Never did really go back to sleep, but went on about my day. So that same week, I went to church. And I woke up in a very good mood, went to church in a very good mood. But while I was there in church, a heaviness kind of came over me. And I cannot explain why. I can't explain what. It was just a heaviness. That's the best way I can describe it. Where it was hard to praise the way I wanted to praise. Even though I did more praying than praising this time. And usually, I'm up kind of dancing and singing along. But it was a heaviness on me at church. And then our pastor spoke and he brought forth the word. And to me, the word was right on time. It was like it was speaking directly to me. And to summarize what I got from the word, pastor was basically saying, you have to resolve conflict through communication. You have to be able to speak up and say what's on your mind. Of course, prayer and other things are needed in order to, really get your peace, going to scripture and reading. But communication is key if you ever really have an issue or a problem or anything with someone. So to me, that was like God speaking to me and saying like, it's been something on your heart and on your mind. Go ahead and talk about it. Today is that day. So I prepared myself. I was like, okay, I've been trying to have a conversation with a loved one for the longest. And I've always kind of planned in my mind how that conversation needed to take place. Like, I need to be in person. I needed to be a one-on-one. It's definitely not intended to be a conversation that was going to produce conflict. It's just that I had confusion within myself and wanted to get clarity and ask some questions, right? I really thought the conversation was going to be a pretty smooth, easy conversation to have for the most part. Now, as a therapist, I know a thing or two about assertive communication. And what I know is that when you want to have those heart-to-heart conversations or something that seems pretty important to you, you usually want to have that in person, because communication is not just the words that you use. It's not just the verbal communication, but it's paraverbal, which means how you say certain words. It's nonverbal, meaning how you look when you say certain things. So it's important to me to try to have this conversation at least face-to-face so it could be a smooth conversation. Even though I know the topic itself might not have been the best topic that no one would want to talk about, I was more so seeking my own clarity and trying to advocate for someone. Needless to say, this conversation did not go as planned. I walked away feeling very dismissed, feeling unheard. I even had someone in this conversation tell me that before you even speak, know that it's usually something within you and not the other person when you have an issue. Which kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I felt like, well, you're kind of coming already to the table with you determining that whatever I said, there is no accountability, no responsibility, no nothing you did wrong. The issue was within myself. That's how I took it. Another thing that was said that kind of, hurt my feelings was that this was a conversation I've been telling someone that I wanted to have with them for a while. And when this person finally spoke up, the first thing they said was, I wasn't going to say anything, and then they went on to talk. And that was hurtful, because I'm thinking, well, if this is a conversation that, I've been trying to have with you, why would you come to the table prepared not to speak? How can we have a conversation if you're not willing and ready and able to speak back with me, but you were just going to listen and maybe not say nothing and maybe hold in what you wanted to say? So needless to say, I felt like the conversation was a complete failure. I had this planned out, how I wanted to do it, what I wanted to say, which was not all bad. It was some good and some concerns is how I looked at it, but nevertheless, not how I planned it to be, right? And the days that followed, they were not easy days for me. I mean, you're talking about days where, it takes me a while to process some things, because I'm the type where I'm not bothered until I'm bothered. There's no really in between. I'm cool and I'm easy. And then when I feel bothered, it's like, now I'm really bothered. This is really getting to me. So once it hit me and I started feeling angry and I started feeling hurt because of the denial of being able to come to this person's home and speak to them, being spoken over, being in a sense dismissed and not having the opportunity to say what I hoped to say. I was the person who kind of initiated this conversation. So I was really hurt behind all of that. In the few days that followed, it was some crying, it was some praying, it was some scripture reading. It was a lot that I tried to do to try to work my way through it, to try to find peace again in all of this. But little did I know, God was still in the midst of what I thought was a failure. I told you that this conversation was more so to advocate for someone and to get an understanding myself about some things that I just didn't really understand why things play out the way they do. And although I felt like that initial conversation on Sunday was a complete failure in reference to what I thought it needed to look like and how it should have happened, it actually was a success. Because of that conversation, other conversations were able to take place with other people that were involved in that conversation, even people that wasn't initially involved. They were able to have conversations with loved ones that they otherwise, might not have had. They was able to share thoughts and observations that throughout the years they did not choose to share or to talk about. And they were able to express themselves and get a sense of peace for themselves and reassurance for themselves. So despite my hurt and my confusion, a lot of what hurt me was just, the denial of not being able to come to the home, to have a face-to-face, being spoken over, having people kind of come to the table with their minds already made up. So in my opinion, not having that open heart and open mind that I was hoping, some people had. I was hurt by all of that, and it took me a few days. I mean, you're talking about praying, crying, having headaches, reading scripture, doing everything I can do to get myself back in a good place emotionally. Right? And then it hit me. I thought about the dream I had the same week that led to the Sunday that I went to church. And this is what I took from that dream. The blue horse in the dream is me. I still don't know why I'm blue. But the blue horse in the dream is me. Throughout my life, I'm not conceited. I'm a very humble person. It actually still feels a little weird when I get compliments. But throughout my life, I've been told how beautiful I look or how nice I dress. I always get compliments on how I look. But that was to match this representation of this blue horse at first. And then it came a time where this blue horse had to be caged. When we started trying to put this horse in the cage, that's when it started bucking. And in my dream, I thought it was trying to run around and attack people. But what I now realized, what I looked at as attack, I feel like this blue horse was really trying to be free and address certain situations, right? Like that's me addressing certain things in life that I haven't spoken on or haven't said anything about for the longest, but I'm just now having that confidence and that wisdom to know it's time to talk and it's time to speak. So once I became that person, that voice, like in the dream, the horse went away. And in this situation that occurred on Sunday after that conversation, I felt like I kind of went away emotionally. Like it was really hard to even interact with people in my home. I had to take a day after work and just kind of being in my room and praying and really trying to get myself together. So I was hurt. And remember, in my dream, when this horse came back, this horse was hurt. It had wounds on it, open wounds even. But yet and still, it was still very bold and confident, which is what a horse represents. A horse represents strength and boldness. So in my dream, even though this horse came back hurt, even remember seeing it limp a little bit in my dream, it still was very persistent in trying to address issues or attack or get to where it wanted to be. So then when it finally went up in the house, that was maybe me addressing things really close and personal to me and still having that fear of, oh man, what is this going to mean? So now this beautiful horse that everybody thought was beautiful now might have a different perception of this horse. Maybe this horse isn't as pretty or as beautiful or as kind or nice or what they first perceived it to be. Maybe this horse isn't that anymore. Like it was in my dream. My horse went from I want it to I don't want it anymore. So for me, I feel like, I've been quiet and I've been so loving and I'm going to always be loving, but I'm going to be a whole lot less quiet. And now that I'm speaking up with a boldness and trying to address things that I see that I might not understand or that I might not like, people's perception of me are going to change possibly. Doesn't mean their love is going to change, but their perception could change. I got to admit, having interactions with people changes my perception of people as well. So to kind of summarize what I'm learning from my dream, one, I am the horse. Two, people won't always see you as they used to see you, and that's okay. Because when you feel like you're doing things that is led by God and purposed by God, they crucified Jesus when Jesus spoke the truth. Jesus didn't have a lot of friends when he was walking around speaking the gospel. So I can't expect everybody to love and like all the things that come out of my mouth either. I can have an expectation to be loving and kind and respectful when I try to deliver that message, but I can't expect people to always be ready and able to receive that message or like what I'm saying. The third thing that I learned is that it won't always feel good, and sometimes it's going to hurt, maybe even leave scars when you're doing what God told you to do. But remember that God is going to have the victory in the end. And the fourth thing that I learned is that even when you're listening to God and being obedient to him, you might not always know what the outcome is going to be, but trust in the Lord and he will direct your path. So even in my dream, when I woke up with my heart beating after the horse went into the house and I didn't know what happened after the horse went into the house, and I tried to make myself go back to sleep to finish that dream, which didn't work. I feel like that was God telling me, do this, trust in me, and wait and see the good things that I have for you. So, I'm laughing now because having these revelations and reading the Bible and praying and trying to listen to God and feel closer to God, God would speak to you. He will tell you what he has to tell you, be it if that's through your dreams or certain people that he put in your life, or you turn into the scripture that speaks to you right when it needs to speak to you, or you going to church and hearing that message that it feels like even though you might be in, the room with a bunch of people, it's like the pastor talking directly to you. God will speak to you. You just have to be quiet, be still, and know that is him that is speaking. I want to read you a scripture. It is Romans 8:18, which says, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." So it means that you might be suffering, you might get hurt, you might get some bruises, but something better is going to come from this. Something worthwhile is going to come from this. And like I shared with you, even though I might have been hurt and bruised and somewhere in my corner licking my wounds, the person that I wanted to really get understanding and consideration for was able to have conversations and basically achieve the goal that we wanted the original conversation to achieve. So I want to kind of conclude this with leaving you with a mental health tip. And my tip is, don't suppress your thoughts and your emotions. Address them. If you have to take time to get your thoughts and emotions in check, take that time. If you have to step back and regulate your emotions first, step back and take the time you need to regulate your emotions. Pray about it if it's a situation you have to address prior to addressing it. But find coping skills that won't mask your emotions. Just help regulate it. Bring that intensity of that emotion down enough to where you can properly respond to situations, have conversations, and share what's on your mind and what's on your heart. But no, even with all of that preparation, it still might not turn out the way you planned it. One more scripture I want to share with you. Proverbs 16:9. "A man's heart devises his way, but the Lord will direct his path." God is speaking, you guys. He gives us the tools we need, the people we need. He put us in the right places. He speaks to us through our dreams. You got to listen and you got to have faith. And he'll make it all right. He'll give you a peace beyond all understanding, even when you're going through your tests and trials and tribulations. One of the fruits of the Spirit is long suffering, but he'll never leave you alone. And he's always there by your side, even when you're going through. Thank you for tuning in and watching my video. Don't forget, if this speaks to you or if you feel like you know someone that this can speak to, send it to them. I'm here to help anyone I can help. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell. That way you will get notified every time I come out with new content. I have another good one coming that's going to share with you some healthy ways to help regulate your emotions and not mask them. Stay blessed.